The smell of roast turkey fills the kitchen. Your nan's checking the pigs in blankets for the third time. Someone's already arguing about Brussels sprouts. It's Christmas dinner, and nothing tastes quite like it used to. These 25 dishes built British Christmas, and every single one tells a story, from the golden roast potatoes your mum swore by, to that Christmas pudding nobody really wanted but everyone expected. This is the food that made the season. Number 1. Roast turkey with stuffing and gravy. The bird sits in the middle of the table like a trophy, golden skin, sage and onion stuffing spilling out. This wasn't always the star of Christmas. Goose held that title for centuries. But turkey took over after the Second World War, and it never let go. Every family has their method. Some swear by butter under the skin, others wrap it in bacon. The gravy gets made from the drippings, thick and dark. It's the dish that starts every argument about cooking times. Number 2. Pigs in blankets. Tiny sausages wrapped in bacon, roasted until the edges go crispy. Children grab them first. Adults pretend they're saving room but always take 3. They appeared on British tables in the 1950s and became non-negotiable by the 1980s. Some families make hundreds. They vanish in minutes. The name sounds silly, but try serving Christmas dinner without them. You'll hear about it. Number 3. Roast potatoes. Crispy outside, fluffy inside, cooked in goose fat if you're doing it properly. These aren't regular roast potatoes. Christmas roasties get parboiled first, roughed up, then roasted at scorching heat. The corners go dark and crunchy. Your dad probably has a secret technique he refuses to share. Wars have been fought over who makes the best ones. They're worth it. Number 4. Brussels sprouts. The most hated vegetable in Britain, but Christmas dinner without them feels wrong. Boiled until soft by older generations. Roasted with butter by younger ones. They smell like school dinners and childhood trauma. Half the table pushes them to the side. The other half claims they've always loved them. Nobody believes them. They showed up on Victorian tables and refused to leave. Even people who despise them still put a few on their plate. It's tradition. Number 5. Roast parsnips with honey glaze sweet. Sticky, caramelized at the edges. These turn golden in the oven alongside the potatoes. The honey glaze makes them shine like they've been varnished. Parsnips belong to winter. They taste better after the first frost. Something happens to them in the cold ground. The starches turn to sugar. They get sweeter, more earthy. Dig them up in September and they're bland. Wait until December and they're transformed. Your grandparents knew this. They timed their harvest accordingly. The forgotten root vegetable that nobody rated until someone gave them a chance. Now they're untouchable. Proof that even the plainest things can become spectacular with the right treatment. That's Christmas in a vegetable, taking something ordinary and making it golden. Number 6. Roast carrots. Simple, reliable, often forgotten until someone notices the plate looks empty without color. They get drizzled with honey or tossed with herbs. Sometimes they're roasted with the parsnips. Sometimes they're done separately. Either way, they're there. Orange and familiar. Children eat them without complaint. Adults pile them on for the vitamins they're definitely not getting from the rest of the meal. They complete the plate. Number 7. Cauliflower cheese. Baked cauliflower drowning in cheese sauce. The top goes golden and bubbling. This appeared in British kitchens during rationing when vegetables needed help tasting good. The cheese sauce stuck around long after the war ended. Some families make it with cheddar, others add mustard. It sits in a dish on the side, steaming and heavy. Nobody needs it with all the other food. Everyone takes some anyway. It's comfort in a casserole dish. Number 8. Braised red cabbage. Sharp, tangy, cooked low and slow with vinegar and sugar. This cuts through all the rich, fatty meat on your plate. The cabbage turns deep purple, almost black. It smells like Christmas markets and German influence that crept into British cooking decades ago. Your plate needs something acidic to balance the gravy and butter. This does the job. Some families skip it. Those families are wrong. Number 9. Bread sauce. Milk, breadcrumbs, cloves, nutmeg. This sauce baffles anyone who didn't grow up with it. It looks like wallpaper paste. It tastes like childhood. Medieval cooks invented it centuries ago to use up stale bread. British families kept making it because it works with turkey. Creamy and mild. It soaks into the meat. Young people discover it and pull faces. Then they reach 30 and suddenly understand. Number 10. Cranberry sauce tart. Bright red, the only thing on the plate that isn't brown or beige. Americans popularized it, but Britain claimed it decades ago. Some families make it from scratch with fresh cranberries. Most buy it in a jar and pretend they didn't. It cuts through the richness of turkey like a knife. Your plate needs that sharpness. Without it, everything tastes the same by the third bite. The jellied kind from a tin splits opinions. Half the family loves it. Half thinks it's wrong. Number 11. Gravy. This is what holds everything together. Made from turkey drippings, stock, and flour. Dark and glossy, it pools around the potatoes and soaks into the stuffing. Christmas dinner without proper gravy isn't Christmas dinner, it's just roasted food on a plate. Some families add wine, others use the vegetable water. Your dad probably makes it while everyone's arguing about something else. It gets poured from a jug that only appears once a year. Everything tastes better drowning in it. Number 12. Brandy butter. Hard butter whipped with icing sugar and brandy. It melts over hot Christmas pudding like yellow lava. This appeared in Victorian times when brandy meant wealth. Now it comes in tubs from the supermarket. The alcohol content varies wildly depending on who made it. Your nan's version probably had enough brandy to strip paint. The shop-bought kind barely tastes alcoholic. Either way, it turns pudding from dense and heavy into something almost edible. Number 13. Christmas pudding dark. Dense. Packed with dried fruit and soaked in alcohol for months. This gets steamed for hours until it's almost black. Then someone pours brandy over it and sets it on fire. The flames flicker blue in the dark dining room. Everyone claps, nobody actually wants to eat it. The mixture is thick and dark like wet cement. Sweat, breadcrumbs, brown sugar, dried fruit that's been soaking in brandy for days, sometimes weeks, raisins, currants, sultanas, candied peel that nobody actually likes but goes in anyway, spices, treacle, a splash of stout or ale. Everything gets mixed until your arm aches, then it sits overnight getting darker. The next day, it goes into a pudding basin, gets covered with greaseproof paper and string, then it steams, 4 hours, 6, 7, sometimes 8. The windows fog up, the whole house smells like Christmas and damp. The pudding sits in boiling water, cooking slowly, getting denser and heavier. When it finally comes out, it's almost black, shiny, solid as a cricket ball. Then it gets wrapped, put it away in a cupboard, left to mature for weeks. Some families make theirs in October. The pudding sits there in the dark, getting older, getting stronger. The alcohol soaks deeper into the fruit. The flavors marry together. By Christmas, it's transformed into something your great-grandmother would recognize. On Christmas Day, it gets steamed again, another 2 hours at least. The anticipation builds. Then comes the moment everyone pretends to look forward to. Someone brings it to the table. The lights go off. Brandy gets poured over the top. Warm first if you're doing it properly. Then the match strikes. Blue flames dance across the surface. It looks magical in the darkness. Everyone oohs and ahs. Takes photos, the flames die down, the lights come back on. Number 14. Mince pies, short crust pastries filled with spiced fruit. No actual mince inside despite the name. That changed centuries ago. These appear in December and vanish by Boxing Day. Warm from the oven with a dusting of icing sugar. You eat one with your tea, then another, then 5 more before dinner. Supermarkets sell millions. Homemade ones taste better but nobody has time. They're small enough to not count as proper food. That's the lie everyone tells themselves. Number 15. Christmas cake. Rich fruit cake covered in marzipan and white icing. Decorated with plastic snowmen and edible holly. This gets baked weeks before Christmas so it has time to mature. Some families pour brandy over it weekly. It sits in a tin getting denser and boozier. Your grandmother probably made hers in October. Now most people buy them ready-made. The cake itself is dark brown, almost black if your nan made it properly. Currants, sultanas, raisins, candied peel, all soaked in brandy or whiskey before they even touch the batter. The mixture sits overnight getting drunk. Then it bakes low and slow for hours. The smell fills the house, spices and alcohol and something that smells like Christmas itself. The royal icing goes on last, pure white, smooth as snow. Your gran probably made peaks and swirls with a knife, made it look like a winter scene, added a ribbon around the edge, placed a plastic Father Christmas on top, that same plastic figure that's been in the family since 1987. Modern cakes come pre-decorated. They look perfect. They don't taste the same. Number 16. Yule log chocolate sponge, rolled with cream and covered in chocolate ganache, decorated with a plastic robin or a sprig of holly. The surface gets scraped with a fork to look like bark. This is France's contribution to British Christmas. It arrived in the 1960s and stuck around because it looks impressive. Children love it because it's basically chocolate cake pretending to be festive. Adults love it because it's lighter than Christmas pudding. It sits on the table looking fancy, gets demolished in minutes. Number 17. Trifle layers of sponge soaked in sherry, jam spread thick, custard poured over, cream on top, decorated with hundreds and thousands or glacé cherries. This appears in a glass bowl so everyone can see the layers. It looks beautiful until someone digs a spoon in and destroys the whole thing. Trifle showed up at British celebrations for centuries. Every family has their own version. Some add fruit, others don't. Arguments start over whether jelly belongs in it. The answer is yes. Number 18. Shortbread biscuits, butter, sugar, flour. That's it. These melt in your mouth and leave your fingers greasy. Scotland gave these to Britain centuries ago. Christmas made them essential. They come in tins with tartan patterns. Some are plain rounds, others are shaped like Christmas trees or stars. You eat them with coffee on Christmas morning, then with tea in the afternoon, then again after dinner. They're simple, they're perfect, they don't need anything else. Number 19. Stilton shortbread biscuits. The savoury version. Crumbly shortbread mixed with sharp blue cheese. These show up on cheese boards or as starters. Stilton is England's blue cheese. Strong, salty, not for everyone. Mix it with butter and flour and suddenly it works. These appeared in the 1990s when British cooking got fancy. They pair with port or wine. Adults eat them before dinner while discussing things that don't matter. Children avoid them. They taste like grown-up Christmas. Number 20. Prawn cocktail. Prawns drowning in Marie Rose sauce. Pink and retro. Served in glass dishes with a lettuce leaf underneath. This was the height of sophistication in the 1970s. Then it became embarrassing. Then it came back as nostalgic. The sauce is mayonnaise, ketchup, and a splash of brandy. It shouldn't work. It does. This starts Christmas dinner in houses where people remember when prawn cocktail meant something. It tastes like 1978. Some traditions refuse to die. Number 21. Smoked salmon, pâté, smooth, pink, spread thick on crackers or toast. This is the posh starter. Smoked salmon blended with cream cheese and lemon. It looks elegant on the table, costs more than it should. Your mum probably serves this when she wants to impress someone. It tastes light and rich at the same time, fancy without being complicated, the kind of food that makes people think you spent hours in the kitchen. You didn't. Nobody needs to know. Number 22. Game terrine pheasant, venison, chestnuts, all pressed together and baked in a loaf tin. This is countryside Christmas, rich and dense, sliced cold and served with chutney. Game terrine says someone in your family knows a farmer or goes shooting. It tastes earthy and wild, nothing like turkey. This appears at posh Christmas dinners or when someone wants to show off. You eat a thin slice on a cracker. It fills you up immediately. One piece is plenty. Number 23. Bubble and squeak. Leftover vegetables and potatoes mashed together and fried until crispy. This is Boxing Day breakfast. The name comes from the sounds it makes in the pan, bubbling and squeaking. Brussels sprouts that nobody ate yesterday get a second chance. Carrots and cabbage join them. Everything gets flattened into a patty and fried in butter. The bottom goes golden and crunchy. It tastes better than it did the first time. Leftovers always do. Number 24. Turkey sandwich. Cold turkey, leftover stuffing, bread sauce if there's any left, all pressed between two slices of soft white bread. This is what Boxing Day is actually about. Not the sales, not the football. This sandwich. You make it standing in the kitchen while everyone else is still in bed. The turkey is dry, but the bread sauce fixes it. You eat it over the sink. Make another one. This is the real Christmas tradition. The one nobody talks about but everyone understands. Number 25. Mulled wine and advocaat Snowball. Mulled wine simmers on the stove, cinnamon sticks, orange peel, cloves. The smell fills the house before anyone arrives. This is Christmas in a mug, warm and spiced. It's been warming British families since medieval times. Then there's the Snowball, advocaat mixed with lemonade and lime, creamy yellow and sweet. Your nan probably drinks these while everyone else has wine. It tastes like custard that went wrong in the best way. These drinks don't appear any other time of year. They're Christmas only. One sip and you're 8 years old again, waiting for dinner. These 25 dishes never change. Your children will eat the same roast potatoes you did. Their children will argue about Brussels sprouts just like you. The recipes stay the same because they're supposed to. Christmas dinner isn't about innovation. It's about knowing exactly what's coming. The same tastes, the same smells, the same arguments about gravy. That's the point. While everything else in life shifts and disappears, these dishes remain. Next Christmas, when the turkey goes in the oven and someone checks the pigs in blankets for the third time, you'll understand why some traditions survive. They taste like home.